What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you come into the channel and check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to talk about a recent episode of Rob Parker. I'm not sure what Rob Parker's show is called, but Rob Parker and his co-host was discussing James Harden, right? And they were talking about, is James Harden a Hall of Famer? Right. And so recently, the Clippers went out. They played they got knocked out of the playoffs by the Denver Nuggets, right? And James Harden, his last game, I don't think his last game against them, that game 7, was a bad game. I just think that a lot of times you want somebody like James Harden to be able to step up in those big games, right? And he has never been able to do that like throughout his career. And so now people are discussing, like, is James Harden like Hall of Fame worthy? Is he somebody who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame? And so I wanna listen to Rob Parker's his take on James Harden, and what he has to say about James Harden as far as being his performances, and then him being ready or worthy of being in the Hall of Fame.
And we've talked about it. Just 2 for 8, awful game. Just expect more. And as we talk about Steph, we talked about the 0 for 16 or whatever in certain more. James Harden just doesn't play well in big games, in these big games, and the history
the playoffs period
is there. I mean, there's no denying it. It's just unbelievable how a guy who was so prolific at one time when he was with the Rocket, prolific.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, one of the greatest offensive weapons I've ever seen.
I agree, and I remember seeing him in the early stage with OKC when he was coming off the bench.
Oh shoot!
That year that they ran to the finals and then they lost. I thought to myself, my God, who is this guy?
Right.
I was like, this James Harden is crazy.
Like, they keep getting guys, right? They found KD, then they find West.
3 guys like that, on the same
3 Hall of Famers, all would be MVPs. Wait, am I wrong?
Well, let me just. All right, so during the regular season, before they get to James Harden, like his playoff record and stuff like that, well, let me ask you all: do you think that he has done enough? James Harden has done enough during the regular season that would make him worthy of being in the Hall of Fame? Like, is it like, do you only have to have success in the postseason for you to be eligible or be worthy of the Hall of Fame? I know that it's for fans of James Harden or whatever team that he's playing for, whether it's OKC, or the Clippers or the Rockets. It's disappointing to see somebody have so much success during the regular season, and then when big games come up, then they fall short. But is that still enough to keep somebody out of the Hall of Fame? That's a question that I think that I would like to discuss or think about. But let me get back to some more of what Rob Parker had to say about James Harden's performance.
Did I speak too fast?
Yes, that's the point that you made.
Hold up.
When you talk about, I'm sorry, and I'm not being a prisoner of the moment, but James Harden is not a Hall of Famer to me.
This is crazy.
He's not.
This is crazy.
I'm dead serious. Like, at some point, and here's my issue with just putting people in, and I'm not. Okay. Let's talk about Rob G. The parameters. We're talking about like
the criteria,
like NBA career Hall of Fame, not the Basketball Hall of Fame. I'm done with that. I'm not paying attention.
I don't think he has anything that would.
No, but you know what I'm saying.
I get what you mean.
But if you play a long,
he did do Olympics.
You play a long time. You're in the Olympics. Like, they start adding on, right?
Yep, that's true.
So they'll say, well, but he played a while.
You remember that one? He made an Elite 8 in college, and
all that. And before you know, he's in the Hall of Fame.
Just NBA. I'm with it. What you got?
Here's why I would say no. Is that there's got to be more than just compiling numbers, okay? Because numbers are important, but it should also be in context. That's why guys who play on bad teams who just score a lot of points, they don't get any recognition because, A, you're not winning, and B, somebody has to score because it's a game. Do you know? Yeah. It can't be 135 to nothing.
Said, I don't care if it's the Wizards. Somebody's going to get 100.
Somebody, right. Yeah. Somebody's got to score. Like, this is the game.
Yeah.
So you can't look at that and go, oh, he's getting buckets, man. I don't know. The Wizards can't win, but dude, somebody's got to score the points. So that's just not enough. And if you're putting James Harden, who hadn't done anything, so to speak, even that one with the Rockets when they missed 27 straight threes. I don't know how many he missed in that. Remember that 27 straight?
Yeah.
That's James Harden's career almost. Like that one sequence.
Let me before Rob Parker get too far into this. All right, so he make a good point though when he says like based on like his career, like has he done like enough through the season? Because all right, for instance, if he played for a team like Houston Rockets and he's the man on the Houston Rockets, right? And then when he gets to the playoffs, he's unable to get his team over that hump as far as like, having some type of playoff success, then all that means is like his regular season success is he's scoring just because somebody has to score. And so that's a good point that Rob Parker made. Right. Even like he said, they use the Wizards as an example. Like whoever is the leading scorer on the Wizards, if the Wizards lose a game 100 to 135, that don't mean that the person that's the highest score for the Wizard is eligible or worthy of going into the Hall of Fame. That would be like, for a long time, Bradley Beal. Nobody's talking about putting Bradley Beal into the Hall of Fame. And Bradley Beal put up some really good numbers when he was playing with the Wizards. But then you see when Bradley Beal goes to Phoenix, it's a whole different story. Now, granted, Bradley Beal is a little bit older now, but still, and he has not been as healthy, but still, you can see the difference between being on a team that a not so good team like the Wizards, and then going to a team like Phoenix where they have expectations, right? And so the same thing I think applies to the regular season. So if you're scoring and you're putting up buckets during the regular season, and then when it's time to go into the playoffs and you can't have the kind of success at that next level, then maybe I like that criteria, because then that next level, which is the playoffs, shows that your game is not, like your numbers sometimes can be inflated, and it shows that your game is not where people may think it is because of the inflated numbers. So I like what the point Rob Parker is making right there when it comes to James Harden. Let me listen to some more of what Rob Parker and his co-host, I'm not even sure what his co-host name is,
or a stretch there, which sums it up. And my only point is, if James Harden goes in with this abysmal postseason albatross hanging on his neck, where do you actually put in the people who actually have played well and have won? Right. You know what I mean? And scored when their points
like
and
Deion Sanders mattered. Said, there needs to be a Hall of Fame in the Hall of Fame. Like all right, everybody's in, but this wing here.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like that. Like that's what a Hall of Famer should be. And I've said this to you with baseball and with my vote. I don't vote for any other Hall of Fame, just baseball.
All right, so I like his point. And I think his point is I think his points are valid. I mean, when you look at it the way Rob Parker stated, I don't think that James Harden, I mean, and he had some really good regular season numbers. He had a lot of success during the regular season, and his teams, he was able to get his teams to the playoffs, but he was never able to have any type of like success in the playoffs. And I think that right there is, I think that's very important. It's very important. And it's a shame for somebody to have the kind of numbers that James Harden had and still not be able to be in the or may not be able to make it to the Hall of Fame. But I mean, I think you do have to have some success in the playoffs, I think, in order for you to be able to, to get into the Hall of Fame. And so when you look at it the way Rob Parker stated, I think Rob Parker made some good points. And actually, in my opinion, he simplifies it, because a lot of people will look at the success that James Harden had during the regular season and say, well, wow, he put up some monumental type numbers, but he wasn't able to have any type of success. I mean, he had some epic failures, as Rob Parker pointed out. He had some epic failures, shooting 3 for 30, and when he was at Houston, I mean, they really had some epic failures as far as like in the playoffs. So yeah, I don't think he's Hall of Fame worthy. But with that being said, man, that's my take on it. With that being said, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, leave a comment and let me know what you think. Do you think James Harden should be, in the Hall of Fame? And I'll check you all out in the next video.